Hey, hi everyone. In today's video, we're going to look at this tool called Langflow, which is basically a low code or a no code tool using which we can build an AI applications or the AI agents. So they provide a drag and drop interface where we have different components, like you have a components like a model, you can have a components like an agents, and basically it can generate the underhood code for you. So you don't need to write any code, you just need to assemble them, create the flow of your workflow or application, and it will generate the underhood code. That is why we can call it as a no code application or a no code tool. And we can also call it low code because you could extend this application by writing some little bit code. And once you have these flows ready, you can expose them as an API, and then you can use it anywhere in your application. So that's what actually we're gonna see in this particular video. So let me share what we're gonna cover. But before that, so earlier we have created many tutorials on a RAG or agents. So basically we have a course where we created the RAG application using a LangChain. Then I also created a video where we created the RAG application without using any framework, using the plain OpenAI API or the plain libraries. But in today's video, what we're gonna do, we're gonna create the same RAG application, or we're gonna build an agent which can use different tool like web search, retrieval, web scraping, and all these things, without using any code. So we will see what exactly the Langflow, how do we create flows inside those Langflow, how do we create, let's say, RAG flow, then the agent, and eventually we will see how can we access our flow that we created as an API endpoint so that it can be used by the other applications, right? That's what we're going to see. So let's go back to this, the Langflow. So we could install this, Langflow locally. I tried installing, but I got some, error. I tried a couple of times installing. So rather than installing locally, I thought of, why not use it on their platform? So, you can use it. So let's get started. Basically, they have this, different platform where we could actually try. So let me log in with my account. Okay, so we got this platform where we could build those Langflow agents. You can see there are already a couple of flows which I have created, because since I have been playing with this for the last couple of days and experimented with them. So let's create some flow so that we understand and we can see what exactly the the flow means and what are those components. So we can click here to create the new flow. And you can see, to get started, there are a couple of use cases that we can create. We can create the basic prompting flow where you have an LLM model and there is a prompt, which is where we should start. Then you can choose a template. Basically, you can choose as a starting point and then you can modify. So there is a template for the RAG application, there is a template for the agent. We will start with very basic. So let's start with the basic prompting. And let me rename it, maybe, because since I have this basic prompt, maybe I could call it basic from YouTube or something. And I could even give the custom endpoint that is used during the API access. Let's ignore it. We just rename it. Okay, so this is how the flow look like. Let me see if I could zoom a bit. Okay, and here is a README section where it tells you how we can run this particular flow. So it is saying I need to first add the OpenAI API key because the this prompting flow uses the LLM as an OpenAI LLM, and then I can chat with the bot from the playground section. So let's look at what it is here, right? Let me okay, this is, yep. So this is the flow. Now you can see what exactly this flow has. We can see there is something called a chat input, which this thing is called a component. So components are nothing but these building blocks of this flow. And the flow is nothing but, you can see there is a connection between these components. So there is a chat input. You can see that chat input value is going to the, this is an LLM component, which is going to a input variable of that particular LLM. There is another component called the prompt, which is going as a system instruction inside this particular LLM. So whatever we're going to type during our chat, it can go here, and our overall system instructions are going here, and then basically output of this LLM as shown here. And we can run this flow by clicking on the final component, which is this chat output component, to see whether it is successfully running or not. So let's run this final component, and we could see there is some error. It is saying that there is an incorrect API key provided because we didn't provide any key. So let's put some so we can see here we can put our key here. So let me go back to my page where I have created one key for it. So let me take this key. Maybe I just close this one. Yeah, and I'm pasting my key, and I'm again trying whether this whole flow is able to run or not. Yeah, the flow we are able to run. We could add some more components to this particular flow. I will show you how we can customize this prompt by adding the variable, but first of all, let's see what they are providing, right? And now we could test in this particular flow in the playground. Okay, some, I think my previous session or something. Let's run it again. The playground, I call it new chat, and maybe I can ask, what is programming. So this is basically, simple prompt flow. Okay, so we got some answer for that. It means our flow is working. We are able to run our application, our flow, where we put some input. If you go to the this one, let me see if you got some other information. So whatever we put, that is going as an input, right? We can see that is going as an input, and we are getting the output of the model here as a chat output, and that's what we saw here. Let's some play with it. So we know that this is the OpenAI model. This is an LLM model, and it has a prompt. This one. So we can modify that prompt now, and maybe we say, let's say you always start with some symbol or something. Let's say namaste. Okay, so we kind of change its behavior, and we give it an instruction that you can always start with the namaste, and let's see whether it follows. Let me go here, click on a playground, start a new chat here, and I ask, let's say, the same question. Now let's check the behavior. Yes, you could see it is following our instruction that it should always start with the namaste. So that's how you could add your own custom instruction to the prompt. But let's say we want to put some variables here, right? So what we will do, maybe uh, let's do one thing. We can use the variables here. So to use the variables, we have to use something called let's say you tell joke about some topic, and the topic is a variable. Let's say this is the topic. Now it has detected there is a one variable called a topic. So let's save it. Okay, and what we could do, this topic required some value, and it should come dynamically. So the one way we could do, rather than passing this chat input here, we could pass as it as a topic. So whatever I type, it become the topic. So let's see if I could delete this one. Yes, I'm able to delete. And okay, so I type a chat input, let's say, and it going as a topic here, and here I don't have anything. So let's test what happened. So basically, whatever I type for that particular topic, it should tell me a joke. Let's run it. First of all, let's confirm whether this flow arrangement is okay. Okay, it's run successfully, I guess, because we could see whatever we type as a chat input, it should go as that variable value called topic, and then this go as a system message, and we should be able to execute it. Let's go into the playground and try. Let's say I say car, or let's say cars. So now I want to hear a joke about cars. So let's say whether it, yes, so this is a joke. Why did the car break up with its girlfriend? Okay, so basically it is able to take my input value and substitute this value for the topic. That is why. So this is how you could modify this flow. You could add something more to this particular flow. So this was a very basic the Langflow flow that we created, which, let's say, you can think of it has an LLM. It has a prompt that goes to the LLM. You could parameterize this prompt by putting some variable, and every time you add a variable, it will come down. So let's say we put something like you tell joke about topic, and let's say subtopic. I'm not sure whether this is even meaningful or not, but just wanted to show you. So it detected that there is a subtopic also, and if I save, there should be one more variable created called subtopic that also requires some value. So you could give hard coded value, or it might come from some other thing. So you could always modify. So let's save it. Okay, so we saw how do we create the Langflow this flow. Now let's try to access it as an API. We can click here as an API, and it shows the different ways that we can access our thing. So here's a call request you could see. Then here is a Python code using which you can access your flow as an API. There is JavaScript, and there is a Python SDK code. So here is a Python code which require the you to install the Langflow. We will try with the Python API thing, but first we will require the token. So let's generate the let me copy first, and then we will generate the token then. So I tried earlier. Let me try a new file. Let's say I call it something like flow.api. paste it here. And okay, I should call it flow.api.python. Maybe let's call it only flow.py. Okay. So yeah, we don't care about the line flow. We're just gonna use it as an using request library, using making request. We could give here optional endpoint, but what is we required? We require this application token. So let's go back here, generate one application token. Let me copy that token here. Okay, so we got an application token. Let's look at what all things it has. So it has some Langflow ID, then there is a flow ID, there is the base API URL where it will make a request. This is something called tweaks, using which we could play with the parameters. They have given an example that, let's say we want to change the OpenAI model from default to, let's say, GPT-4 or some other model. We could pass that parameter here, OpenAI model parameter, and we will see it. But for now, let's see how we can run this thing. They have given that you could run this simple as, Python, the name of the file. We can put our input that we want to send, endpoint, and the tweaks. These are optional if you want to overwrite some of those values. So basically, we just require Python and your message. So let me copy this thing, and our file name is what, flow.py, and our message, maybe, let's see who is Elon Musk. Okay, so we got some response for the who is Elon Musk, and there is so much data is coming. You can see even I got confused what all things it has, but here is the answer. The Elon Musk is a prominent entrepreneur, and you could see that it has used default GPT-4o mini, and there are some repetitive things. I'm not sure what is that. So let's first of all let's write this result to the file. Okay, so let's write this thing. We will run this thing again. It should be a comment. Okay, so we should go to the response.json and we should be able to see it. Now, who is Elon Musk? We got the some couple of things here. Okay, the thing is that our prompt is something, whatever we will put here, it's gonna create the joke about that. So it's created the joke about Elon Musk actually. When we say who is Elon Musk, he's actually creating the joke about Elon Musk. That is fine. So, but you could see there are multiple things. I don't know what is results, artifacts, outputs, and something messages. Again, the same thing. In the results, again the same thing. Maybe we need to go in. I try to check to understand why we have this multiple thing in the response. But basically, here's what I understand. This is what the response we got from the model, and we should be seeing model name. Yeah, here is the GPT-4o mini, which is used. So let's play with that. Model name. Let's say we want to change the model name. Here they have given option, right? So let's copy this thing, and we can put it here. It is saying OpenAI here. I guess this is here. So we can put, instead of mini, let's say we want to use GPT-4o. Now let's run this thing again. And hopefully this time we should see the source of the model name as a GPT-4o instead of mini. Okay, you could see now it's a GPT-4o instead of mini. So this is how you could play with them. You could tweak those parameters, right? So this is what you could do to access this particular flow. So it was pretty easy. You don't require to any coding to create the basic flow that we just created. But yeah, again, to access that particular flow, we just use their code and put those. This is what your front end team or the other application developer will use to access your flow. So now let's go and do something else. Maybe we go to the next thing, like what we wanted to do. We wanted to also say, so we just created this one, the basic flow, the lang flow. Now we will see how do we create the rack flow. Go back to here. Maybe we can go back to again our all projects here. They should save automatically. Okay, fine. Did it saved? Hopefully. Let's click on a new flow. Now this time we will select this one, creating the rack. Again, let me give it a name, something like maybe same thing, like a YT. Load your data for chat context. So this is just description. Okay, this is a bit complicated. So let's see. First, let me zoom on README file here. Think I got a page zoom. Rather, I should keep it 150. Yeah, I should zoom this one. It is saying load your data with the load data flow, and then there is a retriever flow. So basically a rack flow has a two flows here. Could not load flows from your data, is fine, whatever we will see. Then it is also saying I need to make sure that I need to add OpenAI API key. Better I add it as a global variable so that I can access it, so we can check that also. So yeah, simple steps. So first load the data and then actually run the retriever flow. So let's look at the load data flow. So down we can see the load data flow here, what it has. We can even read about it, what load data flow has. This flow can be run by running the component called AstraDB, this one. If I run this thing, this flow will run. If you're using this what is DB component, if you're using OSS, add your AstraDB application token. Okay, we need to add some token or something, AstraDB token. Let's see, I forgot what I did earlier, but we will try now. Here we can upload our file, basically content. It will go through that split text thing. Here we could manipulate those parameters, how much chunk overlap we want, what is the chunk size, what separator we want to use. Then what else we could see? Here is our vector database, which is the AstraDB. Okay, there is a by default one token that we already have. If we don't have token, what we can do? Okay, so I think we have this AstraDB token here already. I think whether I created this token or what, now I don't remember. Let's read this thing again. If you're using OSS Langflow, add your AstraDB application token to. I think we got this token already added here, but we don't see any database selected. We don't see any collection selected. We don't see any OpenAI API key added here. If you run this thing, obviously it will give some error to us. Okay, there is some error. AstraDB is missing some API, but whatever, there is an error. Let's choose a database. I created earlier this RagDB one. We could create another one. Let's I call it RagDBYT provider. I don't know whether this makes any difference or something, but let's select some provider region. I don't know. Let's see. So it is pending. It is saying. Meanwhile, let's say create the OpenAI key, but this time we will create a variable. I already have one variable called OpenAI key. Let's create the new variable. Add new variable. Let's call it OpenAI key u2, and we can put a value, the key that what we have. Let me take this key. Okay, I put this key here. Save this variable. Now this variable you can say available OpenAI key. I can select it. Now that same value can be used somewhere else also. Is it still pending? I think it is still saying pending. Let's try to run it. Okay, so we select collection, it is loading. So let's wait for a while. Meanwhile, you can look at the upper flow, retriever flow, where you type something, then that goes to the vector database. Vector database, you can see there is a embedding attached to this vector database, and then finally that whatever results we got from the vector database get parsed as a plain text. You can see there is a component called parse data which converted into the plain text. That text goes as a context inside the prompt, and then finally that prompt goes to OpenAI, and the output of the OpenAI, we could see the chat outputs. If you guys are familiar with the rack flow, if you have watched this thing, you know already what all things involved. But even if it is not, this is very intuitive, that you type something, then we find the relevant documents inside this vector database. Once we get those documents, we convert those documents into the plain text basically, and then put that text as a context so that this question can be answered based on this context. And eventually this whole prompt goes to LLM and we get the answer. That's what we call the rack. Is our model DB still pending? It still says the pending. Is there a refresh option available? Let me run this component and see whether it is working fine. Please upload a file. Okay, no problem. So we can upload the file here to do some. Let's say I got a fictional file called a Green Grow company, which is something related to the harvesting. Now again, let's run this component, whether it is running fine or not. We haven't seen any error, but we know that we haven't selected any. Okay, now that there is no pending, I think we got this database, created. Let's create one collection also. So DB, it is successfully, but let's create some collection. Maybe we create the new collection. Let's call it, YT. Let's not give any dimension. Okay, what dimension? Okay, we could choose the large, the small. Let's use this small model. Cosine similarity is fine. So collection name is called the YT, where our documents will be stored. Okay, I think we got everything now. We got the file. It is going through here. Embedding also, we have already selected the small embedding model here, and we also given the OpenAI API key. So Retriever should be running fine. Okay, I think AstraDB has built successfully, so we can expect our green row files are already added. As per their README now, since we have executed the this database flow this time, basically this is the loading data. Now let's execute this flow. But see whether we have everything here. Chat input is what we're gonna give. OpenAI embedding, we have to provide the key. This is the benefit of adding it as a global variable so that we could choose it. We got the OpenAI key, and I think this is where we could even test intermediate step whether they are working fine. As study is missing endpoint, okay, we have to choose the database. So this is YT collection that we created, which is the YT, and let's try again. Okay, this time it is built successfully, means run successfully. Okay, I think then we got the prompt, we got the model. Again, for the OpenAI LLM part or component, we also require the OpenAI key. So let's run it so that we could know that it might got that error. Okay, there is an error because there is no key provided. So let's provide our key here. Good. Now let's test it again. We can test directly here because then it will be like whole flow we are able to test. I think chat output build successfully means this flow is able to run successfully. Both the flows we were able to run successfully. It's time to go into the playground and see whether it is working or not. Let me go to the playground. Okay, these are the old session. Why I'm saying this old session? Let me go back to the new. And I have this document called Green Grow. So it's a company related to farming and harvest and something like that. Let me ask what is this company? This is a fictional thing, so definitely ChatGPT don't know. And we want to make sure whether it is getting answered from that document. So Green Grow is a company specialization agricultural innovation, eco harvest. This is correct. It is coming from this document, eco harvest, and not what we did. So basically, we got the working RAG application. Here. Do we have any other details available here? No. So this is what we got. Green Grow is a company that specializes. So this is working good. We are able to run this flow and try this thing. Currently, we haven't added any component, but we will add the component. Once we go to our agentic application, I will add something there which was not existing there. So till the point, all looks good. We have seen many components. There is a chat input, there is an embedding component, a vector database component. This is kind of a utility kind of a component. There is a prompt. Again, there is an LLM, and the final the chat output. What else we could do here? Nothing. Let's go to the next step, which is creating the agent, and there we will add some more component which is not part of their template. Let's go back to again our my project section. By the way, you could do the same what we did for the basic prompt. You could access that as an API, but it would have been repetitive, so I'm not showing. Let me go to the agent. Now let's choose the agent and let's look at how does the agent look like. Let me go through the README file here. Here also we have to add our OpenAI key, and then we could chat with the playground. Let's look at what this. This looks simpler than the our RAG flow, but don't worry, we will add more stuff to this. Now let's run it. We know it will not run because it doesn't have all the information. Okay, so some problem it got, right? URL, we don't require any prerequisite. So if you look at this agent component here, in the tools section, it got two tools. One is the URL tool, which fetches the content from one or more URL. There is a calculator tool, which can calculate something. And simply a chat input is the input that what you are typing. It's a chat input. And the output of this agent shown as a chat output. So only thing I think we need to worry about is putting our OpenAI API key. So we already created this variable which has the OpenAI API key. Any instruction that we want to give, we could always give those instructions here. And we already shown you how to parameterize this. You could put those variables, and then those variables can get value from the different thing. And we will do that thing. Meanwhile, let's first test this simple agent before we add our own functionality to it. Let's run it first. Let's see whether we are able to build this end to end successfully or not. Chat output built successfully, so it's working. So let me go to the playground. Let me create a new chat, and I ask what is 2 plus 3. So I'm expecting it is able to use the calculator tool that agent has Okay, now here we see some debugging kind of information. So we asked what is 2 plus 3, and it executed a calculator tool because it has access to the calculator. And this is what it's saying to the calculator, and the calculator responded with the value 5. And this is what we got it from the agent. So seems to be working. Now let's ask something related to, okay, we saw there is a tool related to the URL. Let's put the URL and see whether it is running. So let me go back to our website and put something there. Let's see what happens. So let's go back here, and this time in the playground I'm going to put some website URL and see what happens. So I think if I look at, it has decided to execute the URL fetch content as a tool. This is what is the list of URLs going to that tool. And finally it got some data, it got some text related to, okay, some text. What I see, it only able to extract very minimal text. So maybe their extraction module is not that great. We could use some other module like firecrawl or something like that. So this is the page description and future smart, what it is able to do. Okay, so we just observed that this agent is able to successfully execute these tools based on what chat input or input we are providing, and we are able to see that output. Again, we could access that same thing as an API, just like what we accessed the last time. There is nothing new about it. Now let's say we want to extend the functionality of this agent. We already have this couple of things. Let's add one more thing. Let's add a web search to it. Now let's look at the tools section here. So when I click on a tools, does it highlights any tool there? Let's see here. Yeah, here are the tools. I want to use the web search tool first. Now I will be using this one, this W or WAI search. So this is one of the tool. Let me put it here somewhere, or maybe I can click on this plus icon. Okay, it's not here now. I got twice, so let's delete one of the instance. Let me put it somewhere here. We got a tool here. Now you can observe this tool didn't require any key, but this tool is requiring a key. So I need to have that key here. You can go here at Tabili, search, and you can get your key by logging there. I created already my key, which I put here somewhere. Yeah, let me copy my key and put that key here, this Tabili. Now we want to make sure this is available as a tool. So you can see here, right, that this tool, we are connecting these tools to the tools section of the agent. Similarly, let's do this thing. We are taking this tool and connecting here. Good. Now I guess this agent also knows that there is a tool which is used to search for web. So this is what the Tabili a search tool. Let's first see whether this end-to-end is working fine. Is it running? Yes, it's running. And chat output build successful. I think it's running fine end-to-end. Let's test in the playground. We want to try now. Should we try inside the same, or let's start the new chat? What can we try which it needs to search? I could explicitly search for something. Maybe what if I say, okay, let's say if I say my name or something, what it will write. I'm saying explicitly, but it need not to be telling explicitly. But let's see what happens if I'm telling explicitly search for me, whether it is using, okay, there is some error. Then error occurs to see unauthorized thing. Why unauthorized? We have there is a tool exception that is saying unauthorized. It means our key is not properly copied or what. Let's see once again what key we are using. SK project. Did we copy key properly? Oh, no, no, no. This is OpenAI key. No. So I think I copied the wrong key. So let's go back to the Tavili and get the right key. That's how we got this unauthorized thing. Okay, I did created this Langflow, before creating this tutorial. So let me copy this one key, and maybe I should have put this here also. Let me update that key here. Go back here and put this key. Let's test our agent once again. Okay, I think this drag and drop is running. Components agent build successful. I think this will work fine. Let's try again in the playground. Am I able to try again? Let's see if I ask same thing again. Let's try. I don't want any problem. So now let's see. We know that we have put the right key now. It should be able to tell us whether it is able to use the search tool or not. Okay, great. I think it has found certain things about me. Uh, it has found the profile that I'm not at all using. So okay, it has found my YouTube channel, there's this alternate link, GitHub profile, LinkedIn profile, all those things. So it is able to search. Let's see whether we know that whether it has used the web search or not. Yes, it has used this tabeli search. This is how you could extend this AI application what we created. Now next what? So we are able to extend it as a tool, but let's add some more complex tool, which took me some time to figure it out. So what we decided, we added the web search tool. Let's add the retrieval tool. Let's think of, we are creating the RAG agent, because then you want that agent should have the RAG as a tool available there. To do that thing, let's look at our tools list, what we have. And we see there is the extra DB is also one of the tool that we could add. What else it has? Retriever tool. Yes, we require this retriever tool. Now let's go back. Should we delete some of these tools? Because anyway, let's delete this calculator. We're not going to use the calculator. Okay, we deleted this calculator tool because it is taking unnecessary space for me. Delete this also, for because we already said it is working, right? Let's say we want to use a retrieval tool instead. Now retriever tool requires a retriever. You could see it require an input called retriever, and we can type about something. We know that we have data related to green grow. Let's say everything related to green grow company. Spelling anyway. So this is basically helpful for the agent, that what this tool does. It is saying that if you want to know everything related to green grow, you can use this particular tool, but we require a retriever. It will not run. So first of all, let's attach this tool to the tools list. Now this agent has two tools, a search tool and the web search tool. And if you want to see, let's test it whether it runs successfully. It is saying the retrieval tool is missing the retriever, from where to retrieve. So let's add. So if you click here, so this is one thing that into Langflow, if you click here, it will show you all the components which is suitable to this particular input. So in this case, this all this vector DB popped up. I'm going to use the same, that Astra DB. So let's take it here, Astra DB, which we just saw earlier, right? And we know that this DB already have our one collection that we created, which is the RAG DB YT. Sorry, not collection, which is the DB, and the collection name was the YT. So we already have data in this particular DB, from the previous section. We know what is missing here. Okay, we require embedding model. So that we need to add here. If I click on embedding model, I can also give the suggestion of what all models possible. I'm going to use anyway OpenAI embedding. So let's take the OpenAI embedding, and let me put here. So first of all, this retriever needs to connect here as a retriever. Okay, so this agent has access to the tool called retriever, but this retriever should know from where to retrieve, which is this AstraDB, and it also require an embedding model, right, to do to find the semantic search. And for the OpenAI key, in the last section, we created the variable called OpenAI key. We're gonna use this thing, and let's connect this embedding to this embedding. Now this flow is complete. This everything is complete up to this point. Anything else we are missing? No, I guess now it should be able to either web search or take something from the retriever tool. Let's test whether this flow is properly configured or not. Okay, retrieval tool is missing name. Should we give the name? Maybe I call it green grow. Why green grow? Let's say I call it only the rack tool. Now let's run again and see whether the flow is, it's like a compilation of this flow. Okay, component agent. It's saying invalid tool name arrange. This one. Let's call it, how tool name should be. Does it take hash or this? Let's try once again. Is it running or not? Let me click here again. This time this output ran successfully. Basically the flow is compiled successfully with our own extra tool that we added, and then all the complexities it brought. Let's test it in the playground now. Now first, okay, last time I said search. Now I ask, okay, latest news about, let's say, Elon Musk. In that case, it should search through the web because I'm asking about the latest news. Not sure why it is taking time, but let's see. Okay, it has finished. Elon Musk. Why so many images? Basically, we got some news. Not sure whether they are recent or okay. It's a read more. It's a 5th December. Yeah, recent one. So it means it is able to fetch those things. And let's confirm whether it has use it has definite use, but let's say to make sure. It has used the tabeli search because we ask about the latest news about the Elon Musk, and it knows that it needs to now do the web search. Now let's ask something about this green grow company. What we could ask: innovation, introduction in 2018. I could simply ask actually what is green grow again. Innovation harvest system has been hailed as a game changer in the agriculture industry since introduction. Okay, let's see if that it's all. Let's say when this green grows, this introduced. Let's say when was it introduced? It should be at least able to figure it out now. It needs to call the rack tool. Yes, 2018. That's the correct answer. 2018, and it has used the right tool. This interface, where it is, yeah, it has used the rack tool. It asks this question, introduction date, and then it retrieves those relevant documents and all of those things outputs. Okay, all good. So we just saw that how can we take the agent what the the Langflow is providing, and then modify that agent by removing certain components, adding our own tools. We added the web search tool, then we added the retrieval tool. This is a very practical example because most of the time we will be building the rack tool, and a lot of time only adding a retriever is not sufficient. Sometimes you need to add the other things, like you need to call maybe external API, call the web search, or add some other tool. In the real application, the only retriever is not sufficient. That's why we need to build an agentic rack application so that it has access to the uh, more tools than just like retriever. One more thing I thought of doing is actually we just saw adding the retriever, which is a rack. But what if I just want to add also the natural language to SQL part of it? But that would have required some time. But if you guys are interested to know, okay, how can we extend this agent, not just with the retriever, but adding some other thing, like let's say calling an external API or adding a tool which will call your database, the relational database like natural language to SQL. So if you are interested to know, just comment so that I can create the second part of this video going into the much more depth. And I also saw we could run this particular flow locally. You could export this flow as a JSON file, and then you could run this thing locally. I tried running locally, but don't know, I couldn't successfully install locally. I was getting some lot of pip install error, so I couldn't. But maybe I can try again. Let me know if you are interested to know how do we run it locally, or how do we deploy this thing on AWS, EC2 VM, or somewhere, or anything you want, because there are so many things. There are so many connectors, bundles, and all these things which I couldn't explore. I see there is a fire crawl also. So instead of using their URL, we could use this fire crawl thing. Maybe I keep exploring this thing for one more week, and meanwhile you can suggest me what's something I could include in the second part of this particular thing. So I hopefully you found this useful, because as we discussed, we covered the basically the Langflow basic flow, which is the prompting flow. Then we created the rack flow. Then we created the agent, and eventually we know now how to access this particular. So we only saw accessing this as an API when we created, I think, prompting flow, but the steps remain the same. Nothing changes whether it's a rack or whether it's an agent, because it's an API. You just call it in a same way. So thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed to channel, I would suggest subscribe to it. And there are so many other videos that you could watch if you want more technical video to create the RAG application or the NL2 SQL applications. Thank you.